What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for May 20th, 2023. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. And this whole Sixers coach slash James Harden thing I don't know, this has some legs to it. It just keeps going. So the latest is Daryl Morey had his post-firing of Doc Rivers press conference yesterday. Mentioned a few things, but a couple of takeaways from that was that re-signing James Harden would be a top priority. So I'm starting to see the dots connect even more. And truthfully, we've talked about this, and if they want to have a shot to maybe get lucky and hopefully maybe things bounce the right way, obviously they need to get out of the second round first. But the only way to really do that, unless they're really going to blow it up, is to re-sign Harden. So it makes sense. He's one of Morey's guys. Also, I would imagine, despite the fact that he said no, the players are not necessarily going to have input. Would not be surprised if the new coach has the approval of James Harden before. And again, this is all speculation. I'm just kind of reading the kind of the tea leaves, but we'll see. And I mean, I think maybe it was Doc's game plan, and that's why the two of them didn't work. And I feel like I have Stockholm syndrome here. I'm like, well, maybe with a new coach and a new offensive mindset, maybe Harden and Joe could. Who knows? But Morey did say that. Whether or not that is Harden's top priority, I don't know. But again, I think the way the NBA CBA is, the Sixers are able to offer more money, I believe, than most teams. We'll see. Lots of feedback from yesterday's show about the whole Elton Brand not getting enough blame for all of this. A lot of you kind of feel the same way as me, but there were a lot of people that said no because he's been a puppet no matter who he's been under. So just some food for thought. More about Morey's conference, though. Embiid apparently was not, I shouldn't say happy, but was shocked by Doc's firing. He thought he was going to be okay. He liked Doc. Makes sense. Doc, I guess, always kind of had the moniker of a player's coach, so that makes sense. Nick Nurse is coming in for an interview next week. Not sure how I feel about that. Yeah, he won a championship, but again, I feel I don't know. I'm to be honest, I've heard some stories about him when he was in college. I think he was out at Iowa State. But he's another one of those guys that kind of lucked into a championship. And do we want another guy like that? I'd almost rather go with the Sam Cassell, who has something to prove, or Monty Williams, who has some success. Maybe not getting to the championship round, but Nick Nurse basically lucked into that with Kawhi Leonard that year, and it took 5 bounces to beat the Sixers in Game 7, or else they wouldn't have won on that run. So a lot of people are high on him. I'm just like, he's not necessarily my top choice, but we'll see what happens. He's the only one I've heard so far, but Morey did say that he's not necessarily looking for someone with experience, or he doesn't want to pigeonhole it to that because you might miss out on somebody like a Sam Cassell who doesn't have head coaching experience. But that's who my choice would be. Sam Cassell at this point. Like I said, not a fan of Nick Nurse, but it is what it is. All right, the Phillies are officially broken. 10-1. They got out to a 1-0 lead. Things were looking good in the first inning. And then there you go. Second inning, bad inning. Gave up 4 runs. They never recovered. They actually gave up another 4-run inning. Only managed 3 hits. Not sure what's going on. And again, I don't know if a player's only meaning. Something needs to be done because it's frustrating. They're too good to be playing this bad. But they're back in action this afternoon at 4. We'll be heading down with the fam. Looking forward to it. Probably we'll be getting some wiffle ball in. Hopefully some baseball as well. Union in action tonight up in New England to take on the Revolution. Before we get into this day, I do want to mention, because of just how iconic he was, Condolences to the Brown family. Jim Brown passed away yesterday. Widely considered the greatest of all time, the best NFL player ever to play. He was just a beast of a running back. He was actually an All-American lacrosse player up at Syracuse. Retired when he was 30 years old because he was filming a movie, and I forget the name of the movie, and it was running long because of weather. And Art Modell basically said, if you don't come back, he's going to get fined or something. So he's like, fine, I'll retire. He retired at 30 years old at the peak of his career as the NFL's all-time leading rusher. And then just went to work. He was like, fine, I'll be an actor. He was an activist, fought very, very hard for civil rights. He was very much involved with when Muhammad Ali got his title stripped and was going to jail. He was very active in gathering some of the prominent black athletes of the time to kind of come together and manage and really kind of work through that. Just like I said, an activist, an actor, just somebody who really put it all out there. And literally the definition of a living, or not living anymore, but definition of a legend. He truly is the GOAT. He led the Browns to a title. That's how good this guy was. He led the Cleveland Browns to a championship. But it was more than just his football career. He was a great actor, but more so, I'm sure he would want to be remembered for some of his activism and just fighting for civil rights and getting athletes to speak up for what's right. So sad day to lose Jim Brown. He was 87, but never fun to lose someone who just meant so much to not even the sport, just life in general. So condolences to Jim Brown. Truly was the GOAT of the NFL, and people still say to this day he's the greatest of all time. All right, speaking of GOATs, PhillyGoat.com has a wide selection of Philly sports apparel, whether it's sports or Philly-based. Go check them out. It's been a very, very rough week for Philly sports, so I keep saying it, but go check out their website. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery at checkout for 10% off of your order. They didn't have any Jim Brown stuff. I did look, but they do have some very throwback and legendary Philadelphia stuff. So go check them out. PhillyGoat.com, promo code Jim Montgomery at checkout for 10% off of your order. All right. We're going to go to the Phillies today, and we're going to go back to 1951. On this day, May 20th, 1951, the Phillies and Pirates played a doubleheader. Phillies won both games. Game 1, they won 17-0. Game 2, they won 12-4. Richie Ashburn had 8 hits combined in the 2 games. Went 4 for 6 in Game 1, 4 for 5 in Game 2. All singles, by the way. Had 4 RBI on the day, 2 in each game. Came up 1 short of the Major League record for hits in a day in a doubleheader. That record is 9. It's shared by, ironically enough, 9 players. The last one to do it was Lee Thomas of the Angels. Yes, that Lee Thomas, who became the general manager of the Phillies and constructed and put together that 93 team that went to the World Series. So on this day, back in 1951, Richie Ashburn recorded 8 hits in a doubleheader, 1 short of the Major League record, which is ironically shared by former Phillies GM Lee Thomas, among with 8 other people. All right, Sixers playoff spotlight. We're going to go back to 1970, 1971. That team went 47-35. They were coached by Upper Darby native and former St. Joe's coach Jack Ramsey. You might remember him on ESPN. He was Dr. Jack Ramsey. They went 2nd in the Atlantic, 3rd in the conference. Billy Cunningham averaged 23 points per game and 11.7 rebounds. Archie Clark added 21.3 points per game and 5.4 assists. Hal Greer was on that team. Wally Jones and Jim Washington, both Villanova guys, were on that team. Cunningham was the All-Star, went to the All-Star game, started. He was All-NBA first team that year. They lost, though, to the Baltimore Bullets in the Eastern Conference semifinals, 4-3. They were only 2 seasons away from a 9-73, the worst team probably ever in the history of the NFL or NBA. But after kind of going through these and experiencing what we've experienced with the Sixers this year, And I can't get that analogy that I've heard from a couple people of us being the Dallas Cowboys of the NBA. And quite honestly, going back through this, and hear me out, that's kind of a slap in the face to Dallas. At least Dallas has 5 championships. The Sixers only have 2 as the Sixers, and if you count the one from Syracuse, 3. So they're not even on the Cowboys level at this point. But just tough to be a Sixers fan. But that 70-71 team was the last team to make the playoffs until later in the mid-70s. On this day, back in 1951, Richie Ashburn had himself a day and a doubleheader sweep over the Pirates. I'm hoping we see more than 3 hits today from the Phillies when we're going down, or depending on what my son does and my daughter does, maybe we can sign them up and have them play. At this point, they can't do any worse. It's early. I know. I don't know what's going on with the Sixers. I don't want Nick Nurse. I guess if we have to sign James Harden, I don't know. And it's raining on top of it all. So this has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go check out phillygoat.com. 10% off your order with the promo code Jim Montgomery. Have yourselves a Saturday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.